Hey, it's Tab from Freefly. I'm going to walk you through how to set up a MōVI M5. In this tutorial, I'm going to start with a box exactly as you would receive it, and we're going to get it up and running and turn it into a shooting package. So I'm going to run through it somewhat briskly. I'm going to try and hit all the points in enough detail to get you going, but I don't want it to turn into a half-an-hour video, so let's get started. So MōVI M5 just arrived. Pop it open. First thing let's do is take the stand out, wrestle it out of this foam. So the stand collapses for easy travel, so the legs just slot into these openings. There's keys that you have to find, and then it'll slot right in there. Okay. So this is a stand that you'll use to balance the MōVI. Let's pull the M5 out. So this thing just folds right out. And then straight from there, let's go right into the stand with it. So it's pretty much ready to go. We just need to put the top handle on. So the top handle attaches right here. You need to grab the two drivers that are included, the two tools. It's the 2.5mm driver. Just loosen these guys up very lightly. This is on the pan, or the top crossbar. There's 4 bolts that pinch down on the top handle. Once you get that, this will slot right in there. Get that fully seated. Use the 2.5mm driver, snug that up. Just finger tight, you don't have to go crazily tight. All right, now we're ready to get started. So we've got the whole M5 and we've got it in the stand and ready to dig in and get a camera mounted to it. So the first thing we'll need to do is there's 2 removable adjustable camera plates. There's a top one and a bottom one. On the M5 we capture the camera on the top and the bottom. So the first step will be to remove those. So you'll undo this top clamp. That'll allow this guy to slide right off. That's the top one. Undo the middle clamp on the bottom. That'll allow the bottom adjustable camera plate to slide right off. And then we'll need to mount those 2 camera plates to our camera. The bottom one is straightforward. We're just going to mount the camera plate to the 5D here. The one thing we want to make sure of is that the 2 holes in the front of the camera plate, which are for mounting the rod mount to the camera plate, go towards the front. And then the other thing we want to pay attention to is we want to mount the camera plate in such a way that it extends to wherever the CG point of the camera is. So I know on this is 70D with a 16-35, the CG is right about at the lens mount. So if I mount this in almost the last hole, and then make sure it's straight because there's only one hole on this guy. If you mount that one there, you can see that there's plenty of camera plate where we'll actually hit balance on the gimbal. So now we'll need to install this is the adjustable camera plate which goes into the hot shoe mount on the 70D. So this comes pre-assembled. You'll need to grab the 2mm driver that we include. Loosen these 2 bolts up. These are 3mm flathead screws. And once you loosen those, you'll have this little machined aluminum piece which is designed to fit in the hot shoe. So that goes right in there. And then you have the 2 screws. So just get each of the screws started before you really start tightening it down. This will allow you to adjust it and get both to fit nicely. And what that does is gives us a nice stable platform on both the top and the bottom of the camera to mount to, which with the smaller cameras that you're likely to run in the M5 will actually really help with the stability and tuning of the system. So let's go ahead and install this on the MōVI now. The same middle toggle clamps that allowed us to release those camera plates, we need to make sure those are open because that's what will allow us to slide the camera package in there. We also need to the 2 top and bottom crossbars are adjustable vertically to fit different size cameras. So you're going to need to loosen these side toggle clamps And what that does is that allows this whole crossbar mechanism to float up and down. And so when we first install this our camera package in the camera cage, we're going to need to have that flexible so that we can slide that one in, and then we can position this one where it needs to go. So you can see there I just slid that down a little bit to be the right height for the 5D. And then I will slide that in. I'll just keep going back and testing. Until we roughly have the tilt balance close. I'm getting close there. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to lock that down just to hold it for a second. I'm going to lock this guy down, and then I'll lock the top crossbar down because we've got the height set properly for the height of the camera. We can lock that down now, and just one less thing to adjust at the same time. So you can see I went a little bit too far, and my tilt needs to come forward. So I'll loosen the top one, and I'll loosen the middle bottom one, and I'll just inch that forward very slightly and kind of check with my finger, let it go. Okay, we're very close. I'm going to call that good for now. Okay, so now we have tilt fore aft roughly balanced. Let's move on to tilt vertical. So for tilt vertical in the M5, it's a little different on the M10. We're actually, now that the camera's locked in this cage, we're going to adjust the whole cage up and down to achieve the proper tilt vertical balance. So I'm going to point the camera lens up into the air, and then I'm going to loosen the 4 side toggle clamps. And this allows me to shift this whole cage up and down. So I'm basically going to let go. It wants to tip back that way, which means the vertical CG is too far this way, means it's too high. So I need to pull this whole cage down. So just use both thumbs and just kind of pull it down slowly and check. Okay, so I went too far there. It wants to flop down now when I let go, which tells me that it needs to go back the way it just was. A little bit more. Okay, so we're getting really close. So right now, you can see fore and aft, it wants to stay. And then when I put it in these different orientations, it also wants to stay. So that means we've achieved pretty good, I mean, I did it relatively quickly, so it's really close on the fore aft balance and really close on the vertical balance. So now we have roll. So roll is adjusted by the 2 outside bottom toggle clamps, these guys. And then we'll need to loosen the top one again because that allows the top mount to slide in addition to the bottom mount. And then right now you can see it wants to roll that way on its own. So I'm just going to slide the whole thing until it stays. I went a little too far. So that looks pretty good. And then to check that, we'll kind of roll it to various angles and see if it wants to stay there roughly on its own. And that tells you that the roll balance is neutral and is good. The last one that we have is pan balance. So in order to balance pan, just to get them out of the way, sometimes I'll take these side handles and you can quickly turn them up so they're out of the way a little bit for pan balance. You don't have to do this, it's just my preference, to get everything out of the way. So then what you do is you can tip the whole thing and see which way it turns. So I just tipped it and I made the hill in this direction, and when I made the hill that direction, the lens points downhill. So that means if there's an axis right here, it means we have too much weight in front of that axis. So we need to slide that whole assembly back. So there's 2 toggle clamps on the pan axis. I'm just going to slide that back just a little bit. And I'm going to check it again. Okay, a little bit, so it still needs to go. A little bit more. Just a touch more. So that's pretty good, it's staying. So that means pan balance is really close. And the more time you spend to get these individual balances correct, it'll pay dividends in your footage. So right now we're really close. We have a installed camera, we have a balanced MōVI, and at this point we just need to install batteries, turn it on, and then connect with the tablet. So let me tighten the handlebars back up. And the batteries will be in this little accessory box that comes with the MōVI. This has all of your accessories, anything you need to make it happen. So these batteries are fresh out of the box and have not been charged. They come with about half charge, so feel free to use them before charging them. The MōVI's got an automatic shutoff that will protect the batteries. I want to just do a quick walkthrough on the batteries, the charging system, a little safety on that. So this is the charger. The key points on the charger are that it's set to LiPo, it's set to 1 amp. Additional safety tips. In general, you want to plug the charger into the wall before you plug it into a battery. So you want to have this cord plugged into the back of the charger, running out to the wall. And then this is an important one. These leads plug into the front of the charger. They're colored black and red, so you need to plug the leads into the corresponding outlet. These always need to be plugged in if you're going to charge. If you plug in this lead and these are exposed and these two touch, those two can short, and that's dangerous. So never plug this into a battery or anything else unless these are installed in their respective outlets. So normally I would plug this in now and let it charge, but I'm just going to skip to the point where I install a battery and turn the MōVI on and show you how it works. So we have this little latching door here. The MōVI battery just fits right in there. Make sure the wires don't get pinched when you close the little door. Close that door. You want to make sure the switch down here is turned off. Always needs to be off when you plug in the battery. So the battery connector is keyed and it goes right to this red connector. So you'll just plug that guy in. Okay, so the battery's plugged in, we're all balanced. I'm going to turn the MōVI on for the first time. We'll switch back here. Okay, so MōVI's on. Now we connect to it with a tablet, a Mac laptop, or a PC laptop and get the Freefly configurator app up and going. The main things we're interested in are the 3 stiffness settings: the pan stiffness, the roll stiffness, the tilt stiffness. We publish recommended settings for a wide variety of cameras. You can look at those and consult those and try and match your camera package to as close as one that we have settings for. The alternative way is you just set them manually. So they're set fairly low from the factory, and we'll just increase them until we get an oscillation on that axis, and then we'll back it down some amount. So I just hit 100, 120, 130, 40, 50. Okay, so it's starting to oscillate on the pan axis. I know just from setting up the 5D a bunch that the setting I like that provides really great footage is 130 on the pan axis. I'm going to go to the roll axis, increasing the stiffness. I just hit 65, 75, 85, 95. You can see the roll axis is oscillating. I know from playing with this earlier, 75 is a good setting for roll axis. I'm going to leave it there. Tilt stiffness, same thing. I'm going to run it up. Okay, we're oscillating, so I'm going to take it back down. I know 40 works nicely on this camera package. One other thing is the tuning you get in the stand will be a little bit different than when you have both hands on it. So while you're tuning it in the stand, pick it up and feel it. You'll usually be able to achieve higher stiffness settings when it's in your hand. Human body provides a lot of damping and cancels out a lot of the feedback and resonance. So I'm happy with all these settings. I'm going to write these settings, go System, Write Settings. Write settings to memory, yes. Okay, so those settings are saved in the flash. If we turn this off and turn it back on, those settings are going to come up. This thing is ready to shoot with. If I turn the camera on and shoot with it right now, it's going to be producing beautiful, smooth footage. The 2 items that determine how smooth the footage will be are strictly how accurately you've balanced it in the previous step, and then if you've achieved adequate stiffness settings in the app. It's strictly those 2 things which will determine the performance of your footage. Yeah, you're up and running and ready to shoot. We'll dive into each part of the setup in a little more depth in the next sections. Thanks.